Super Mario Bros., one of the most iconic video games of all time. Right up there with Space Invaders, Donkey Kong, and of course, Dance Dance Revolution. It influenced millions of people and helped reignite the video game industry as a viable media platform. Over the past 35 years, this game has been made available on countless systems, and throughout my years of gaming and collecting, I've managed to get 10 different ways to play Super Mario Bros. So today, I thought it would be interesting to go over all the variations I have and see which stands above the rest. Full disclosure on equipment I use and factors I take in, which might vary from your opinions. Any original Nintendo cartridges that are used are played using a Retron 5 for the ability to play on a newer TV, as well as the ability to capture footage. I prefer original graphics, although I know a lot of people prefer upgraded Super Nintendo graphics. If using a 4-button controller, I prefer using the XY buttons to run and the AB buttons to jump. I also played each game in one of two routes so I can experience the same levels and really notice the differences. Either jumping straight to World 4, then World 8, or jumping to World 3 and playing through to World 4, while throwing in an underwater level once in a while for good measure. This also will not take into account cost for the games or systems, or the ease of finding everything to be able to play it. First off, I only own one version that I actively dislike, but I'll save that for later. The other 9 options are all acceptable in their own way. They just have slight differences which I might consider a flaw, which you don't, so be sure to tell me your rankings down in the comments below. Okay, let's get started. Category number 1, which I'm going to label acceptable. The Nintendo Wii, Super Mario All-Stars. Now don't get me wrong, this is a great compilation. I love having all these games together in one spot. However, I'm only looking at Super Mario Bros. I'm completely ignoring the other 3 games. Basically, every version of Mario All-Stars has the same issues, and this version is no different. While I'm already not the biggest fan of the updated graphics, the main issue is that the physics changed. Jumping and ducking seems off, and it's not too noticeable until level 4-1. Every All-Stars version I played stopped you from being able to jump over 2 piranha plants, and it completely ruins your run. The enemy hitboxes are slightly different compared to the older graphics, and unless you memorize both styles, it can really throw you off. Hitting a brick block will almost always ruin your momentum, as you essentially hit your face on the block that follows. You end up losing all your speed, and it can allow you to be hit by an enemy you otherwise would jump right by. Using the sideways Wiimote is more comfortable than I remember, and is really responsive. Although using the Wii Classic controller allowed me to use my preferred method of YB button combo, so given the option, I would suggest the Classic controller. The Nintendo Switch Online, Super Nintendo Mario All-Stars. This version is very similar to the one for the Nintendo Wii. The 2 main differences are the controllers and the ability for save states and rewinding time. The ability to go backwards and try a jump again gives the user the opportunity to practice without having to replay a large chunk of the level, or the game as a whole. It's something I don't use very often, but I can see it being a good feature for someone who wants to play the game for the first time in years. The Joy-Cons are decent, but not the best for this style of game. The right joystick is a little too close to the face buttons, and it forced me to use the XA buttons, which isn't terrible, but is not my preference. The Switch Pro controller definitely helps with that, as the layout of the controller has better placement, and I can use the button combo I want. This version also has the momentum and jumping issues as the version before. Mario 35th Anniversary Game & Watch. This is a handheld, so forgive my terrible footage. This is surprisingly better than I thought it would be. I really considered it to be a sit-on-the-shelf style of system when I got it. Although it is a better version of the game compared to what I was expecting, the size of the system and quality of the buttons and D-pad really aren't the best. While none of those qualities are terrible, they just aren't as good as many other controllers. The buttons on occasion don't register, and you won't jump and you'll just run straight into a pit. And the D-pad is a little small for an adult hand. It can make your hand cramp, and it's just not the most comfortable. The screen and sound is much better than I expected, and using the old graphics and physics allows you to make the jumps and block hits the way I prefer. It helps keep the system in my mind as an acceptable way of playing. It's a very good portable way of playing the game. Category number 2, which I'm going to call pretty good. The original Super Nintendo cartridge, Super Mario All-Stars. This may not be the easiest way for some people to play. Not everyone has original cartridges or consoles, or even a CRT TV stored away somewhere. However, on a newer TV, using the Retron 5 is a really good way of playing the game, making use of original software. The system has added settings so you can change the aspect ratio if you prefer, or add in fake scan lines to help give you a certain feel when playing the game. The system also allows for original controllers to be used, which is my preferred way of playing. The Super Nintendo controller has the concave XY buttons with the convex AB buttons, which allows the right thumb to sit and roll extremely comfortably. I personally don't have an original Super Nintendo controller, however, I use the 8BitDo SN30 controller, essentially a wireless Super Nintendo controller, and it feels great. This version has all the same physics and hit detection issues as all the other All-Star variations. I was hoping that the original Super Nintendo cartridge might have helped with the physics, but clearly it's all throughout the All-Star versions. However, the feel of the controller and the settings options puts this version above the previous ones. Original Super Nintendo cartridge, Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this as it's 99% of the same as the previous entry. However, this is the only All-Stars version that doesn't allow the B button to be jumped by default. Using the Retron 5 and its settings and button mapping, you can change that, and once you do, there's no difference from the last entry. But I did find it odd, so I decided to add this in. The Nintendo Wii U Virtual Console. This is an original graphics and physics version of the game, which I much prefer. When playing with original physics, keeping your momentum helps keep the flow of the game much more enjoyable. It's how Mario should be played, with speed and finesse. It's a great feeling when you make the impossible looking jumps and use your quick reaction time to get away from danger. It also has a restore point, so you can save the game and come back at a later time. The main issue is the button layout, with X and A both being jump. You have no choice but to have your thumb rolled diagonally up to run and jump. When I play with that button placement, I always end up missing jumps all throughout the game. While I can focus to make sure I pay attention to button placement, it takes away from the natural feeling of playing the game for me. When I do get past the button placement, everything else about the game is how I prefer it. Category number 3. These games are great. The original Nintendo cartridge. Just like the Super Nintendo cartridges, this can be a difficult version for lots of people to play. Without an original system or CRT TV, most people won't be able to play this anymore. However, again, using the Retron 5, it gives me my most authentic way of playing the game, and it's great. Using an original Nintendo controller with an original cartridge is the closest I'm capable of playing the game in its original state. Changing the settings in the system can help you play the game to your specifications and give you the experience you desire. Considering there's only the 2 buttons and original D-pad, I have no problems with this configuration. It feels extremely natural. Along with the graphics and physics that I prefer, this is a definite go-to way to play in my opinion. The Nintendo Mini Console. The Nintendo Mini Console version is amazing. It has essentially everything I look for in the game. From easy plug and play with new TVs, save states, original graphics, original physics, and an original style controller, this version is nearly perfect. The only 2 small nitpicks I could come up with are, there's no rewind feature for people to practice one spot over and over, which doesn't affect me, but it can be useful for other people, and the short controller cord. This cord is painfully short, but an extension for the controller was made and it works extremely well. If you can't play an original cartridge, this is one of the best ways to play the game. When you're playing the original graphics and physics with original style controller and you have all the options you could want, there's very little better when it comes to Super Mario Bros. Honorable mention, Mario 35. Before we get to the best and worst versions I've played, I thought a nice honorable mention of Mario 35 should be made. This is such a fun and addictive variation on the game. It's also leaving the Switch Online service at the end of March 2021. I know I've mentioned it in other videos, and if you enjoy Super Mario, you should absolutely give it a shot before it's gone. And now for the worst version that I own, from the 3DS shop, Mario Deluxe. This version sucks. It has almost nothing going for it. This is the only version where you're zoomed in and you need to manually scroll the window to be able to see everything. There's jumps you have to make without even being able to see where you're supposed to land. You're able to walk and scroll backwards a little bit, which is a good feature, but it must have been added in by necessity because you bypass pipes and blocks so easily on accident. The screen can adjust on its own while you're in mid-jump, really throwing off your timing. The button configuration is also terrible. Up and down on the D-pad scrolls the window up and down, which messes with your ability to duck. The Y button is a sideways scroll button, and the X button is a 3DS pause menu, forcing you to use the A-B diagonal button configuration. Nothing about this version feels natural. Nothing about it is fun. I completely suggest avoiding this version. If it's your only way to play it, just play something else. And now, after playing all of the other versions that I own, the version that I prefer to play is the original game from the Nintendo Switch Online service. Congrats, Nintendo, you did it. Your newest and most easily accessible version of the game is, in my opinion, the best way for anyone to pick it up and play it. It has everything going for it. The graphics I prefer, the physics I prefer, it has save states, it has rewind functionality, let alone the ability to play it on the TV or handheld. The one flaw I could find anywhere with it is the Joy-Cons. Just like playing the Super Nintendo All-Stars version, the right Joy-Con joystick can be in the way, but using the XA button combo instead of the BA buttons will solve that. Also, the Pro Controller is a great fit and works extremely well. The D-pad works great, the XA button combo works extremely well, and the comfort of the controller itself is really nice. There is also the original controller style attachments for the Switch. I do not own them, I have no idea how they feel. But the original controller is great, the controller from the Nintendo Mini Console is great. There's no reason for me to think these wouldn't also be great. The Switch original version is the culmination of all the different versions put into one spot. If someone came over to my place and wanted to play Super Mario Bros., this is the version I would suggest. And there you have it, the 10 ways I have of playing Super Mario Bros. From the terrible Mario Deluxe version to the Switch Online, this game has gone through a ton of slight variations. Which version do you prefer playing? And which version do you avoid no matter what? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, and be sure to click the thumbs up if you enjoy the video and you want to see more. Thanks for watching. Here's some unedited footage of me struggling to get through Mario Deluxe.